Welcome to Connect, Curate, Create, where we're on a journey through the arts and creative industries. I'm your host, Dr. Tim Butcher. If you're anything like me, you love learning about art and creativity. In each episode, I ask artists and creatives how they navigate life, work, and more besides. They generously share their stories and offer invaluable insights that you and I can put into action. As the author of Creative Work Beyond Precarity, I blend my mission to give artists a fair go with my academic smarts, to ask the questions that draw out lessons we can all learn from.
Art is the best form for me to express pain and also reach out to people who have suffered similar situation. I'm not an activist. I'm not a leader. I'm not a great leader, but I can do this. This is my part. I'm going to share this with the world. It's not just about sharing what happened to me, but also it's about resilience. It's about, living your life after whatever happens to you. You have to have your weapon of choice to survive your life and, make it your life again.
In this episode, I talk with Minami Ivory, an artist and educator based in Launceston, Tasmania. Minami shares moving and important insights into how and why she practices art. She offers exceptional insights into how she makes time and space to explore her practice, art as a means of communicating pain, and how her artwork is not only being recognised by Arts Prize panels, but also empowering other women to speak out about their own experiences of pain. Minami bravely and openly discusses her experiences of trauma and pain. And so, if some of the content in this episode affects you, please refer to the show notes, where we have provided links to Australian government recommended support services, or call Lifeline on 13 11 14. That's 131114. If you're listening elsewhere in the world, we recommend you search your government website for links to relevant support services. Be sure to also check out the show notes for highlights and links that you can use to shape your own journey. If you learned something from this episode, follow us on your favourite podcast app and tell your friends about Connect, Curate, Create. Welcome to Season 2 of the podcast. We are back in Enterprise, Tasmania, in Launceston, and this week I am speaking with Minami Ivory. Minami is an artist and an educator, and I first met Minami at Photo Book Launceston, which is a collective that I co-founded when I first moved here as a way to meet other photographers. And I'm so thrilled to have met Minami. So Minami, without further ado, welcome.
Thank you.
Minami, look, it is great to speak with you here on the podcast. We've met a few times. I love your work, and I love sharing photo books with you. We always have great dialogues around that. But I have to say, I don't really know an awful lot more than that. So, this is really a journey of discovery today. And the one thing I do know about you, Minami, is your work is receiving a lot of attention right now. You've entered a lot of work into prizes and awards recently. And I'd just love to know your motivations behind that.
Well, it's become a bit of a hobby, which sounds awful because I hate it when someone says, so you work as a teacher full-time. It's like, yes. So what's your photography is your hobby? It's like, no, photography is who I am. I'm an artist. But entering competition has become an obsession. So it's a little bit like, sounds a bit strange, but it's a little bit like online shopping. So you have a couple of wine at night time after children go to bed, and I look online for art prizes. And then I get comfortable and confident because I had a couple of glasses of wine, which doesn't sound great. And then I start looking at my work, and then I actually decide what kind of prizes and I look for. I should enter in the future, and I'll write it down, and then it becomes my hobby. So I no longer do online shopping. I enter prizes at night time.
Fantastic. Are you saving money while you're doing it?
Kind of. It costs money to enter. I must say it's not cheap, but it's cheaper than shopping online. Yes, that's correct. But sometimes I regret because I do it in a rush. And then I look back and think, oh, my goodness, what was I writing when I entered that competition? But no, it's... And I get so many rejection emails, it's not funny. Sometimes I feel like taking screenshots of rejection emails and putting it as a reel onto Instagram. And then every now and then I get this really nice email about, congratulations, you got in, and it's nice. It's really hard to get rejected because you actually put so much effort into your work, but also I know that I shouldn't take it too personally.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. Look, it's the same in academia as a researcher. I've spent 20 years as a researcher, and the rejection letters from academic journals, they hurt every time. But I do think that is a symptom of the world we live in today, and I think that few professions know it better than artists. You're. I love the fact that you treat it as a hobby.
The competition bit, yes.
But I hadn't realised just how many applications you're sending out there. But what I see from your Instagram, following you on Instagram, is a certain amount of success, and every once in a while, and it seems to be more and more often that you're posting that, and I think you do it very well in that there's no bragging in this at all, but it's like, wow, thanks for recognising my work. And so the most recent thing I saw on your Instagram was just last week. I mean, we're recording a few weeks before this goes live, but the Tasmanian Women's Art Prize.
Oh, yes. That was really exciting to be part of it. Firstly, because it's actually a prize for all art mediums, so it wasn't just photography, and it's actually good that photography is recognised. So that's the main part. And when I went to see the prize, there were a few photography pieces, and they were beautiful, as much as other artworks, of course. And I must say, I've been rejected by a Women's Art Prize a couple of times, I must say this. So it wasn't the first time. I was in when it was, what was it called? Material Girl.
Okay.
I was in it once, and then I didn't actually do any painting, because I actually majored in painting when I went to art school. And after I finished, had one exhibition, and then I didn't do any painting. I maybe did cut like a here and there, but my life took me over. Had a job, children, the mortgage to pay for, so I didn't actually do any art. And then all I did was actually take photos of my children. So I only recently entered competition, and it was really good. It was good to be recognised in Tasmania, because Tasmania is, I think it's got this a different art world, quite different from mainland, and traditional approach to art is more recognised and appreciated. And I respect it so much, but I think contemporary art should be as important as traditional art, and I think it's really good that a Women's Art Prize recognises that.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. As a photographer, whenever I introduce myself as such, people say, "Oh, landscape?"
Yes.
Well, no, actually. But look, there's a few things there. We didn't really get into your photographic practice, but perhaps before we get into photographic practice, because you just opened up something there that photography wasn't necessarily the focus of your practice at art school. So perhaps you could take us back. In fact, before we get to art school, how about, you know, what role art plays in your life, and you know, where did that come from originally? And yeah.
Art came by surprise. So I was born and raised in Japan, and all I loved was English. I just loved learning about different culture. I'd listen to Britney Spears and Spice Girls. And I would watch all the movies from Hollywood and England probably, and get really excited about being able to understand English words. So English was my passion. And art was always kind of in the background because you learn it at school. My mum always appreciated art, so she'd go to exhibitions. And one day when I was in grade 7, she brought home a little book about Keith Haring.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I looked through his work, and, you know, it's colourful, bold, and I loved it instantly. But Mum told me about his story, you know, getting HIV and actually dying quite early. And also he was an activist, so he was voice for gay people and also people who got sick from HIV. And I saw that anger in his paintings, and so emotional, and I didn't know until that day that painting artwork could be so emotional, and it nearly brought tears to my eye, and that was when I was in grade 7. And when I was in grade 9, we had a painting task, and it was about kind of self-portrait. It was about ourselves, and I painted something because Year 9 is a difficult year for anyone, getting to know who you are and wondering who you are, why are we even here for kind of questions. And I painted this really energetic painting that skill-wise, not great, but the passion was there. Like, it's so much emotions, and it told a story. And my art teacher then actually wrote, when I graduated from that school, wrote down in my yearbook, "Minami, you're so passionate, you are going to be an artist."
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, but I was like, what are you talking about? I love English. And then I ended up moving to Australia, or Tasmania actually, straight away. And what happened there was I couldn't speak English, clearly, and I felt so trapped. It was a struggle street. It was so much pain. And I felt like I was so useless because I wasn't on the same stage as Australian students because I couldn't speak their language fluently. But art room was different because art didn't judge your language skills. It was about art. It was a visual language, and there was a welcoming feel to it in the art room. I loved it so much. And I could actually compete against Australian students with my art. And I loved it so much that I was in art room all the time painting. That's when I decided that art was my thing. And then I went to art school in Launceston. And I got my teaching degree because I love stability. Didn't want to be a struggling artist. So I taught art at the same school for 15 years now. And then I took photos of my children with a good camera. So my first daughter, Aki, was born in 2012, and I bought a good camera because that's what my dad did.
Yeah.
In the 90s in Japan, 80s and 90s, he had this beautiful film camera that he took beautiful photos with, like really nice. He had some good idea about photography, I think. Always took photos of us. It was quite embarrassing, but looking back, it's so beautiful. And so I thought that was the normal thing. So I had a good camera, took photos of my kids and put them on Instagram because that's what you do as a mum. Look at my children. How beautiful are they? And then and I met Sarah Rhodes.
Right.
Through my daughter's school. And then Sarah said, "Minami, you take good photos. You should enter them in competition." I was like, "What are you talking about? They're just photos." And then she invited me to Photo Book Launceston.
Ah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I do like taking photos. And then I joined in, and then Lewis Lim Photo Book workshop was on, and I joined. And then Lewis For those people that don't know, Lewis Lim is based in Brisbane, and he's a photographer himself, and also he's a printer, but also he runs workshop of photo book making, and he worked with us, and he was so good. He actually put together my just everyday family photos into a beautiful book, and I just couldn't believe how beautiful it turned out, and I'm like, oh, this feels good. I love this. And also, along with that, Sarah Rhodes, who's also a great photographer I always look up to, she took photos of me a few times for her PhD work, and she takes photos with large format film camera. And when I saw her in action, I just couldn't believe how beautiful the process was. I just did not know. It was just like unknown world, and it was breathtaking just to see her taking photos of me. And so that was around 2021, 2022. And then that year I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a go at being an artist. I'm going to actually take photos with purpose and concept, and I'll see where it takes me. And here I am.
Wow. Incredible. Yeah, you've just taken us on quite a journey there.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And I hadn't realised that, again, as I say, I love your work, but I hadn't realised that photography had really only become something that you considered part of your practice very, very recently. Okay. Wow. It sort of left me speechless. I'm not ready for the next question. No, look, Minami, and so, so Sarah's obviously a key influence, as you've suggested, and I should probably invite Sarah onto the podcast. But yeah, Sarah, co-founder of Photo Book Collective, and look, I hadn't appreciated the value of that either, I suppose. But a couple of things are shining through for me. One is very much about you and your own self-expression. So photography is a medium for that, but also the power of connection as well there, that you've made these connections through your life. And Keith Haring as a major influence, or Haring's work as a major influence early on. How do you see that influencing the work you do today?
Well, love for art, of course, but also looking back, it's actually about pain. Because I always, art is the best form for me to express pain and also reach out to people who have suffered similar situation. So I do believe I'm still going along with his passion and being minority, perhaps. But colours, I love using colours in my photography, although I'm drifting away to black and white because it's really cool as well. But I love his use of colours and simplicity and the bodies, and so emotional, and you need that. You need to have that in your artwork to, if you're not passionate and if you don't have your emotions in it, who's going to see that? Who's going to feel your artwork?
Yeah, and that must be why you're finding success with putting your art into the world in terms of, personally, I cannot relate to directly to the work that you make, but it is aesthetically, I am drawn to this work, and I feel your pain. I just can't relate to it, but that's enough for me to as each project unfolds and I see more and more of your work. But I don't, I'm not going to inquire into that. But I suppose that must be it really, is how you're reaching out through your work with very few words, I assume. But yeah, Is there a particular group of people that you're trying to reach with your work?
This has been in my head quite a while. So who do I want to reach out to? So why am I doing my work? Because this is how I cope with my pain, through art, yeah? But then why am I doing this publicly? I think that's the thing. Because if you're going through trauma, dealing with trauma or pains from the past, why don't you maybe go and see a counsellor or talk to a friend behind closed doors? So why am I doing this publicly? So I've been thinking about this. Probably the first thing would be I watched a movie called Blaze by Catherine Barton. I don't know if you've watched it before. So powerful and so strong. I watched it on the plane. I cried. When I watched that movie, everything that was on my mind, it just got like everything resonated with me when I watched that movie. And that's why the tears came out. And it felt so good at the same time. And I wanted to do that as well as an artist, because I wanted to be part of that, like Catherine Barton. I wanted to actually communicate this idea to the world. And to start with, I was actually really sheepish. So I was thinking, oh, wow, this is a bit too much. Why do I want to share the world that I've been assaulted? Why do I need to go around and tell everyone? What would my husband think? How would my children think when they get to know about my work when they're older? What do I do? So I was really sheepish. I wasn't sure about the artist statement. I didn't even show it to my husband. He kind of knew what I was up to, but I didn't really talk to him about it. Because I take photos at night time in a kitchen. That's my studio, or downstairs. So he could see it. And then I was really awkward. I didn't want to talk about it. I was just taking photos. And he knew, he's got a bit of an idea of what happened to me. So he respected it because he's a really supportive partner. So he didn't really ask. So I actually approached to female friends and got them to read my statements instead and talked about it. But one day, I listened to a podcast with, I love her name. I love her so much. Tracey Emin.
Yes.
And Tracey Emin said she's not going to stop talking about abortion, abuse against women. She's not going to, because the world needs to know, and she shouldn't be ashamed, because the shame should be put back onto the predators. And that's when I thought, yes, that's dead right. So I actually went extreme. Like I just shared everything. I just thought, yes, this is right. I actually need to get out there. I'm not an activist. I'm not a leader. I'm not a great leader. But I can do this. This is my part. I'm going to share this with the world and see if someone understands me, and if they can feel that emotion that I felt when I watched Blaze. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you said, being at art school, finding that art was the way you could communicate. And when you've got such a strong message, such an important message, to be able to convey it through your artwork. When perhaps, when there are things that there aren't words for, or it's uncomfortable to express in language. Yeah, so the text in your photographs really really hits home. Is what I would say. It makes me feel something that I don't fully understand, but I know I need to understand. I know from your work that I need to pay attention. And so, are people paying attention? What sort of feedback do you get on your work?
I do not know. Well, I've had reviews. I've spoken to some people, and some people said wonderful things. I guess people are supportive. One thing that I've noticed, because my last series, How Do I Bury If I Don't Have Your Body, counted, graded, numbered, so long, was about me going through IVF process and infertility and struggle with that. So that was a bit of a dummy to see how much I can share my pain through photography. So I recently exhibited that at Sawtooth, and after the speech, a woman approached me and she actually shared her story. And I thought that was beautiful, that for her to actually be able to come and speak to me about her experience, because no one actually would go, while having a cup of tea or coffee with your friend, hey, by the way, I had a miscarriage. By the way, I've been assaulted before. Like, you don't say that lightly. So it's actually important to create that space and opportunity, because when you share that, if you wanted to, it's almost like a sign of relief, and also knowing that some other people have gone through that. It makes you feel strong, I think, and also that there are always people that will understand you and support you. And a conversation starter, I think. It's great. And I think my current work called Weapon of Choice, it's not just about sharing what happened to me, but also it's about resilience. It's about, living your life after whatever happens to you. You have to have your weapon of choice to survive your life and, make it your life again, despite the sad stories that happened in your life. And I'm not saying that anyone can do it, because I was quite fortunate. My family is quite solid. My family could financially support me to do whatever I wanted. And I know that there are lots of people that have had traumatic events, but they can't get themselves out of it because they don't have support. So I'm not saying that, it's up to you. It's also up to the society, I think. But I want to share that resilience. The resilience is important in our life, and I want people to see how I am now compared to what happened in the past, and it's okay. Life is actually going to be okay, but you just have to have your weapon of choice ready, metaphorically, not physically.
No.
I'm not sure. So maybe I will have some people approaching me if I ever have an exhibition. I did have someone actually approaching me one day after reading my artist statement, and I was quite shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, you read this? Because you write, I don't know if any artists do. I'll write artist statements and put it up on the internet thinking, no one's not going to read that. They're just doom scrolling on Instagram. And then someone came to me and was like, oh, yes, I read your statement. And she shared her story. And I was like, oh, my goodness. Mm. I didn't know so much effect that I had on this conversation. And it was daunting. It actually was daunting, but I was glad. When I got home, I was really pleased.
Wonderful. Mm. Yeah, and you said you're not a leader, but that sounds like true leadership. Being the person who's brave enough to put their story out into the world so then others can find their voice. Mm. And that is ultimate power. I mean, that's just so powerful. And yeah, Minami, I think, I suppose I was hoping to lead to a question around community, around how community builds around the work you do. Perhaps that isn't something that's happening just yet, but where you have individual people who are, they stop scrolling. They stop, they read your artist statement, they want to know more, and then that empowers them to share their story with you. I suppose before I get to the community question is how do you respond? Are you prepared for more of these stories to come at you? And and that does lead into the idea of community. Then is would you then need more support around you to be able to have more open conversations, be able to, because is it something you're comfortable getting? And if not, how is that going to work out for you?
No, that's a good question. I'm definitely not trained. I'm happy to listen. And I think every time you hear a story, or I hear a story, it do affect me in some shape or form. And I'm not a counsellor, I must say. I can only listen. If someone needs help, obviously, I can only delegate them. I sort of give them just suggestion. I'm not qualified to do that. I'm just one of them, really. So that's actually a support network. In fact, so coping with trauma, I never actually went to a counsellor. And then when I started working on this project, I actually went into a shock mode after creating one piece of work, because I'm digging in deeper into things that happened over 20 years ago, and looking back, and actually the memories are coming out like an open can of worm, yeah? And I actually went... I think 3 to 4 days, I still went to work because I'm quite capable. So what happens is when a child experiences trauma, they tend to hide it like I did. So they cope, they learn how to actually put it all under the face, like just all undercover. So I still went to work, taught, still fine. But at lunchtime and recess, like verge of tears. And I was like that touch and go 3 or 4 days. And then I'm like, hang on, I have to stop here. I need some help. So I actually asked for help. And I went to see a counsellor, and it was okay. I only went for a couple of times and I was back to who I was. But yes, I think when you share or start digging into that feelings, people can go in that really verge of tears. And if someone experienced that, obviously, I'm happy to delegate, responsibility, or just guide them through. But I'm just here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you said, that peer network, that support network, and there are groups out there, and I will make sure that in the show notes there are links. So if anything, if anyone listening to this podcast is experiencing anything right now, please refer to the show notes. There are support services out there that can really help you. Thanks, Minami. I think that is an interesting dilemma, if you like, for artists who do put themselves out there into the world, is when others respond, how do we deal with that response? So, there are other ways to tackle these things, but it's so important that someone like yourself is leading the way to begin a conversation and to bring these things out into the open. Art is a way to open up conversations, perhaps more than anything else, particularly, as I said, when there are no words. It's I don't know where I was going with that. But what I really would love to do is to change tack slightly, is how... So you said that you've been 13 years teaching...
15 years,
15 years, sorry. Local high school here in Launceston.
Yeah.
And how does... And then to juxtaposition the day job with your hobby in the night time... I mean, how does that come into the art studio at school? How does it come into the classroom? And how, does it? Or do you keep the two separate? Or, how does the day job juxtapose or intersect with your hobby?
So I actually don't teach photography as much at my work. I'm actually an art teacher. So it's completely different, I guess, but I'm still in the art scene. I have one photography class, but look, it's completely different. I don't brag about myself in front of students. I'm just a techer, really. They wouldn't even know who I am.
No, I suppose I wondered, just in terms of your own approach to teaching and how perhaps your own arts education, how that informs. But you'll have a curriculum that you'd be following, I presume. And,
yes.
So there would be particular things you'd need to tick off on, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to deviate too far from that.
No. But I do have a flexibility of, for instance, photography. Like I do get to pick an artist. You can look at an artist like Sally Mann and talk about family heritage and photography.
Yeah.
And everything. Not that we do that, but that's just an example that we could do. So I get to give my input, I guess. So I get to talk about the artist that I'm passionate about, or the art style that, as long as you actually go along with the CARA, Australian curriculum, we can tick the boxes.
Yeah.
Given that it suits the E-group's capability and also, I guess, concept and everything. And also I think taking photos or being an artist at night time on weekends only, that helps me to become more passionate. Yeah, generally I'm passionate about art, but now that I'm also a practicing artist, I'm always researching. So my knowledge is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, even though I can't remember lots of artists' names. It's just a bad thing. But it helps.
Yeah.
So it takes two to tango, I think. I didn't create art for a long time after uni, but I was in the art scene and then teaching students some skills, painting, drawing, and also looking at artwork together. And that really helps. It really helped me to become a better artist, because I'm actually aware of how people learn, how people create artwork. And so it's quite separate, my daytime job and a nighttime identity. I don't know, whatever we'd like to call it. They're in the same field but quite different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Day and night. But it is, and I think that for me is really interesting. I think every guest I have on the podcast navigates art's work, practice, profession, the intersections that differently. And yeah, so I've been I liked how you framed it, that I suppose with a young family, with a full-time job, that time you have to yourself is absolutely precious, and hence why you just throw yourself into that rather than online shopping.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and I mean, there's a lesson in that for us all. Rather than sit there doom scrolling or be seduced by the ads and all the rest of it, which I am guilty of myself. Pick up a photo book. I have a good friend in London who said, there is not a day does not go by without him picking up a photo book. And you can see how that influences his practice. So I was going to ask you if Keith Haring has ever come into the classroom with you.
A bit rude. He can be a bit rude. Oh, no, actually, that's a lie. No, there are some pictures that I can show to my students, definitely. So I have shown a couple. I'll tell them not to research about him. I'll just show them his photos.
Sure. Yeah.
It's tricky, I think, working with a high school student. There's so many great artists that I want to share with. But then, Google. Back in the day, you could tell them about the artist and you just show them a book, and it was quite limited. But now they research artist's name, and then there can be lots of images that we shouldn't be showing young children.
Which they're not yet prepared for, I suppose. But yeah, and that for me is the fascinating thing for me, is that you yourself are making art which has a very strong message and a very important message.
Yes.
But then you're not allowed to take that into the classroom, or there isn't a place for it in the classroom yet.
No, the only thing that I can share with my students is my skills and knowledge, but it's not about me, it's about them.
Yeah.
There's no need for me to share my artwork. There's so many other great artworks and artists that I can share. There's no need. There's no room for me. But for instance, like Mapplethorpe, I'd love to show his works to my students, but I can't. Just little things like that. Something that you wouldn't have to worry about if you're a lecturer maybe at university. But I need to protect our young people. So that's just a bit of a difference that I just have to make sure that I'm not confused in the process of,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's given me a lot of food for thought. Yeah, as a university academic for 20 years, for me, it's always been about opening up minds, as you say, not about me, it's about the students, but helping them to think critically about the world, and it's just a different age group. So I have a bit more freedom. Look, I really want to get to the future. So are you gonna you're gonna keep having these sleepless nights when you're up late photographing in your kitchen studio and submitting and getting your work out into the world? What does it look like now for the near future? Perhaps where do you want to go next with your work?
Yes, my current series, Weapon of Choice, is. I don't think it's nearly finished, but I'm a bit past taking photos, self-portrait now. I'm actually in a stage of collecting images and, like for instance, I was recently back in Japan, so I went through my wardrobe in my parents' house and I found all sorts of cool stuff that I could use for the series. So I'm in that stage now, editing and sorting things out. So there's a lot of computer work, which is not that exciting. It is exciting, but not compared to taking photos. But I'm also thinking of next projects, and that's a good indication of it's time to move on from my current series because my mind is drifting away. So I've got a couple of things happening already in my dreams, so that's good. So once this is all done, yes, I'll start taking photos again. And I'd like to go back into more like a hands-on, not just taking photos, but collage and even painting on photographs. I think I'd actually love to go back to that visual art side of it. Because that's what I did at university. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds like you're just at the beginning of a journey.
My hobbies do change a lot. So maybe entering Art Prize might not be a thing. When you talk to me next year, you might be back to knitting. I don't know.
Well, there you go. Thank you. You'll definitely be back for season 3. Or maybe 4, or wherever we get to. But at some point in the future, Minami, I would love for you to come back and tell us where you're at then. Yeah. And look, your work is so important. It's so beautiful, and I appreciate how painful it has been for you. And your bravery, your leadership is inspiring. Inspires me, and listeners, I hope it inspires you too. So, Minami, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Tim.
Look forward to talking again soon.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect, Curate, Create. I hope you found inspiration and insights that you can apply to your own creative work. For highlights and links, check out the show notes. And be sure to follow us on your favourite podcast player so you never miss an episode. Tune in next time as I continue to explore life and work in the arts.